So while NASA has been working hard, trying to send humanity to the moon, to the outer space, yet we see that even NASA doesn't have the answer or the equipment or a ship or a rocket that could bridge the gap between the inaction of a man and their activity. Unfortunately, that is so. Unfortunately, we are living in a time when we are masses and masses and masses of hollow idol worshippers. What I mean by hollow and idol worshippers is that we believe that we are doing something good, but in reality, we are all hollow from inside. We are completely hollow, and that is why there is no spark of change or transformation. Loss of spiritual transformation is the greatest problem that we are facing as an ummah. We know a lot. We probably know more than enough. We know all the things that we need to know, but we don't do anything. How can we bridge this gap? Why is there so much hesitation, so much doubt, so much cloudy judgment, so much brain fog, so much fear, so much lack of courage? Why is it so that people are unable to make a decision, take a stand, and even to get started? Nothing can grow if it doesn't start. And we are becoming a nation who is becoming more and more devastated when it comes to even start something. People have ideas, people have opportunities, people have the means, yet nobody is starting something new. Nobody is starting something beneficial. Even if you look across the social media platforms, I remember the time when I was young and my father used to be a media person, and he used to share with us the things related to his work. And one of the things that he shared was that even a half a minute advertisement costs up to millions of dollars or millions of rupees, depending on the airtime. Airtime is like the time when a program is being aired, and it is the prime time, the time when the maximum number of audiences are watching that program. So if you are supposed to display your ad at that time, then the charges are going to be super high. And if you play your ad on another time, then the charges will vary according to the peak hours of every day or every program, depending on the program and their routines. But now, look at how the social media is completely free, and anybody can take any initiative and they can start a business and they can promote themselves for free on any platform. And still, there are so many people, let's say they're not even interested in doing any business, but they're interested in doing some religious work. So many people are simply consuming and doom scrolling and watching, binge watching so many programs and spending a minimum of 8 to 10 hours idling on the social media platforms rather than being creative, using the platforms for creating some productive work. So if they start having an audit, if somebody comes and starts taking an audit, starts taking an accountability of where they spend their time, and this is exactly what's going to happen once we hit the grave. Where did you spend your time? Where did you spend your potential? Where did you spend your youth? Where did you spend? We are going to be asked. Everything that we have in this dunya, we are accountable for because they are not ours. We do not belong to ourselves. Human beings belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what we remind ourselves whenever we have a problem, especially But we can remind ourselves otherwise as well that we are from Allah and to Him we will return. That is, we belong to Allah and to Allah we will return. We belong to Allah. We don't own ourselves. So we are owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything in this dunya is owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ownership is Allah's. Allah owns us, and to Allah is our return. We came from Allah, we will return to Allah. That is what we remind ourselves, and that is how, no matter what happens in dunya, it becomes very, very, very small. And it doesn't affect us as badly when we keep reminding ourselves this thing, that the stay on this earth is only temporary. Says who? Says the King of the universes, says the Creator of the universes. And there is nobody in the universe who's more truthful than Allah Himself. So what is intended by worship? What is the spirit of worship? What is the essence of worship? What is supposed to change when we worship? Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Verily, indeed, indeed. If we know the essence of prayer, if we know the true essence of worship, even the salah is enough to stop us from the forbidden. The prayer stops a person from everything that is forbidden. How? How does that happen? When you remember the protocols of doing salah, then you remember that you're supposed to do it with ihsan. And the meaning of ihsan, Prophet ﷺ told us that you try your best to think that you're looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or at least think that He's looking at you. Imagine somebody who's bringing or using everything in his power, in their energy, in their mind. They're trying to bring complete focus onto this one point, that when we are doing salah, we are looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or if we cannot do that, then at least we are bringing ourselves to this consciousness, this peak consciousness that Allah is looking at us. Imagine if that person is doing this thing 5 times a day or more. For example, tahajjud or salatul haja or other prayers like ishraq and any other prayer. So if you're performing all your salahs and you're bringing your full focus and your concentration to this point, and you're imagining that you're looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every day, 5 or 10 times a day, how will this consciousness, this level of consciousness, this peak level of taqwa, how can it not prevent a person from all that is forbidden? Because when you think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you automatically think about His blessings. You automatically think about His Jannah that He has promised you. You automatically think about how beautiful a life Allah has promised you. Every human being by default is a Jannati. Every human being by default is a Jannati. That is why a human being, a baby, a child till the age of puberty is confirmed, inshallah, confirmed going to heaven if he dies before puberty. Why? Because Allah created everyone as a Jannati. It is the people that when they grow up and they just try to break free or break away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because shaitan deludes them, just the way shaitan deluded and deceived Hazrat Adam and Hawa in the very beginning by telling them that the things that are forbidden are more joyful, or there is some pleasure in them, or there is some benefit in them. And those were all lies. So when people detach themselves from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they start questioning what Allah is telling them and promising them. Then people choose not to go to Jannah, although Allah has by default created everyone for Jannah. And that is why when you understand the reality, when you understand the great reality, you understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you understand His mercy, you understand His complete compassion, you realize that He never leaves you alone. And then when you pray, when you do worship in that spirit, when you live and enjoy every day of your life in the spirit of that knowledge and that information, you revive within yourself a superhuman being. That superhuman being does not get a scatterbrain. Once you strengthen your worship, once you're not an idol worshipper, like an IDLE idol, then you transform your ibadah into a super mindfulness, and that transforms you into a superhuman, gives you a super intellect. And that super intellect is in fact the person who has a super EQ, like the super emotional quotient that is required to become a superhuman being. And that superhuman being does not remain afraid of average human beings and little small distractions to stop them from doing the right thing. And then that superhuman being starts realizing that indeed the forbidden things are very few. And indeed the halal things are so many. So that superhuman being is charged up with every salah. That superhuman being becomes charged up with every salah with even more courage to do the right thing. And when you're charged up to do the right thing, to spread more khair, only and only and only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you elevate your actions, then you level up your goals and you create action, repeated action, consistent action with massive impact. You create and recreate like a honeybee, not caring about what the others are doing, not stopping at any distraction, with full focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with full exclusive focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, complete focus, undivided focus on the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That supercharged, superhuman keeps working and keeps going forward. So what do we do when we have a spiritless prayer? Spiritless ibadah, spiritless worship does not create a spiritual human being. Once I was traveling and my father was very fond of ghazals, and he was listening to a ghazal of this man who had a habit of explaining some difficult Urdu words, and he just paused and he explained the meaning of qaza. And he said, qaza maut ko kehte hain. Qaza means death. That was the first time it hit me that qaza salah means a dead salah. How can a dead prayer create a live conscience? How can a dead prayer create conscience that is God conscious, that has great amount of taqwa, that avoids the munkar. How can a dead prayer? We are living in a world where even the prayers that are offered are dead. We are living in a time where even the prayers that are being offered are dead. How do we transform? How do we become better human beings? First, we have to become better human beings, and then we have to become nafse mutmainna. We are failing at the basics. We are failing at the bottom. We are failing at the bare minimum. We are failing at the ABCs, at the 1, 2, 3s. But why?